Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the Brand Bite podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Myers, and I am super excited to be welcoming Liku Amadi to the show today. Liku is the founder and attorney of Anasa Law Firm, where she helps established consultants and expert service providers decrease risk and increase revenue by making sure they have the right contracts and legal strategy. She is an award-winning attorney, three-time published academic author, and speaks on topics related to client contracts, intellectual property, and legal business essentials for consultants and experts. In addition to all things business, Liku is a proud first generation Tanzanian wife, mother of two, and also a Bay Area native, which is actually where I met Liku. So I am seriously so excited to have you on the show today. I want to quickly hand the reins over to you because obviously you're going to tell us your story. How did you get into entrepreneurship in the first place?
The big question. Thank you so much for having me, Hunter. I'll jump right in. I never wanted to run my own law firm. Okay. When I was in law school, people would say, "Hey, Liku, are you going to start your own law firm, your own law practice?" I was like, no, I don't want to do any of that. I want to go get a big job, make a lot of money, have someone tell me what to do, and go home. Right. I did not want to have to figure out the operations of running a business. I just wanted to practice law. But God has a way of just laughing at people. The pandemic hit, and I thought that I landed what was my dream job, right? So this is job number two after maybe 2 years of practice. And um, right when I got the job, we got the stay at home order, literally like the same week. And I didn't even get to decorate my office, Hunter. Like, I was just rushed into everyone, trying to respond to the pandemic. And now we're not in the law firm office environment. Everyone's working from home. We're virtual, but also like the company has to deal with their own clients, right? So my entrance into what I thought my dream job was not ideal. And then on top of that, just all of the layoffs, right, that happened during that time, like that was scary for a lot of people. And I had worked so hard to get this job, and I just thought it could be gone like that, right? I don't ever want someone or something to have that type of power over me where I could be out on the street, like sleeping in my car, not protected, and just in a really hard position. So that really weighed on me, number one. And then number two, just from a mental health perspective, I was not having the best quality of life. Now, I was okay with working hard. I was okay with working early, not okay with working late. But as a Black woman, to be honest with you, there were a lot of microaggressions and things that I just had to deal with that I was okay with dealing with, but didn't want to deal with for the long term. So, all of that together, I said, hey, let me start my own law firm. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back and find a job because I'm a great attorney. I could be a carpenter, I could be a barista at Starbucks. Like, I can really do whatever. It's not the end of the world. So that is my story of how I jumped in.
Really love that mindset of like, I'm going to try this. I know that I've got a million fallbacks that I could land on if this doesn't work out. There is nothing that is keeping me from potentially making a way better experience for
Mhm.
myself, for my family as well. So I really, truly, truly love that. Something that I'd love for you to share with the listeners is when you were starting out, right? Because many people, we've got people listening kind of at all stages of the entrepreneurial journey. And when you were starting out, like you had made the decision, okay, I'm going to try this thing.
Mhm.
What were some of the things that you experienced in those beginning phases that you maybe had to learn a lot from, or maybe even came easily that you didn't think would? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, what was easy is the fact that I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna jump into it, which surprised me because I was so against it, right, for such a long time. Um, Coincidentally, when I had a 6 month plan to exit. And so in month like four, I found out I was pregnant. So when you talk about, making things better for your family, that was a moment for me where I realized like, okay, I'm either going to punk out and go back to the law firm and not, carry this out, or this is my opportunity to go all in because I always wanted to be the type of mother that was present for her children, at all the sports games, all the school activities, the mom yelling in the stands, like that is me. And so Actually being pregnant at the same time while I was building my law firm changed so much for me. I had to learn how to take breaks. I had to learn to listen to my body. I had to learn to trust my intuition even more, right? I had to learn that there were just things that I didn't have to do the way that the industry was doing them, right? And so that was huge for me. And like I was building slowly, I was taking my time, I was going all in, but I was very much doing it from a quality of life design because that was the main thing that I didn't have when I was in corporate. So those were challenges for me to have to learn. Um, but they were great. They were so good because if I had taken the same work ethic and experience that I had in corporate and tried to match that into my own law practice, my own operations, I would have ran myself into the ground like quickly, right? And that's not to say that I'm all perfect at it now. Like I'm still learning how to, to take breaks, to trust what's happening, like both personally and professionally in my business, to really let things work out or work themselves until they work out because patience, right? You're talking about carrying a baby for 9 months, right? Like, and building a business and constantly experimenting to see, like, okay, is this going to work? Is this going to work? Right. So that patience was huge for me too. And I mentioned my pregnancy because it was just, there was so much I learned from that personally and was able to apply to my business that I'm very grateful for.
I love that you bring up this challenge of like, how do I make this different? Like, how do I not fall into the same trap that I was trying to leave? And I think that that's
Hmm.
something that is really, really hard, especially if your only experience is corporate up to the point of, starting your own business. I know for me, like the idea that I had to be in my chair from 9
Hmm.
to 5, like, that's what you have to do because that's what good hard work is, and realizing,
Right.
"Wait a second, that's not the way that my brain functions best." I'm most creative at different times, and my business is a creative business, so I love that you have brought up the work that you put in and that you're still, working on it. I think that's something else that, we sometimes get in our heads that, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll accomplish it, and then it'll be good, and I'll just have it." And that's
Right.
that's not it. That's not it. Like, you constantly work at it. So, Liku, I love that you're sharing this because I think it allows a lot of people to recognize and realize that, okay, what I'm experiencing is normal.
Mhm.
Like, this is a challenge. I can work through it. People have worked through it. What are some of the things now that you've, been doing this for a little while that you feel have come out of that work that you've put in to make this better fit for you? Make your business work for you as opposed to corporate. Like, what have you experienced afterwards, like after implementing these?
Yeah. It makes me go back to the sensitivity around when I started my business, which was COVID and, being pregnant. Like life is too short. Anything we do should be determined by how we want to live life. I recently I've been talking to my therapist recently about rewriting our own scripts. Like a lot of the way that we move in the world as individuals, as women, as professionals, as mothers, parents, whatever you want to call it, like it's pre-written, right? There's a lot of conditioning that's going on. So, what's come out of it for me is like letting go of that, or learning to let go of that. Because recovering perfectionist over here, I'll admit it. I'll be open. But I've learned so much into like just again trust myself and to feel that I'm, or not even feel, but know that I'm worthy of basically whatever I want, right? That I'm powerful. Again, the overlap with motherhood and business is just like pushing out a baby will make you feel like you can do anything. And I got 2 kids now. So the fact that nobody can tell me anything, like you really have to create this confidence too as a business owner. So that's something else that's come out of it for me is, prior to that, accolades, top of the class this, award that, golden star in second grade, whatever you want to hold on to. But like when you go out into entrepreneurship, not all of that matters, right? Like you have to find your own confidence. And I think that's huge because you have to be able to put yourself out there. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to sell your products or services. You have to be able to sell yourself, right? And be comfortable in yourself when talking with people and having conversations and trying to build relationships. So I mean, we could spend the rest of the episode in me just listing things that have come out of it. And then I'll just speak on more of like an organizational is what I'm thinking, like technical, like being more organized. I was already pretty organized, color coded tabs, visual. But that's just heightened things even more for me, right? Like I want to be efficient in my business operations. How much time can I save, right? Do I have to do these things? I need to learn to delegate or ask for help, which not always an easy thing is not always an easy thing. So those things have also really come out where I'm just learning all of these new things, and I feel like I have to unlearn so much to make space for those things that are actually going to help me and move the needle forward as a business owner for me to show up, but then also like my business, the operation, the structure of it.
Really, really love this because I feel like especially the gold star piece, right? I think there are a lot of I think especially women who go into business who were that like I don't necessarily want to classify us all as type A, right? But the oh my gosh, like you're so good, you're so great, like
Hmm.
hit this bar and this bar and this bar and then in corporate it's like okay, cool, I'm going to climb the ladder. And then when you get into
Right.
entrepreneurship, it's like wait a second. Where's the goalpost?
Hmm.
Where's my gold star, right?
Yeah.
Who is applauding me for the hard work that I'm putting in here, you know?
Hmm.
And I think it's so important to talk about this that you have to learn how to rewrite that script for yourself because it is a completely different world. Same with asking for help, right? Like I feel like when you're kind of in the corporate space, especially in the like climb the ladder, it's like I've got to be an expert at everything, right? Like I've got to be the best. This is how I
Yeah.
succeed. And in business, you learn well, actually, it is better for my business, more efficient, like you said, for me to find an expert in this field instead of me trying to become one, right? And hand that off, which I actually think is a great segue because I really want to talk about the legal side of business, Liku, because I know that you're going to help us out big time here talking about this. Um, I think it is something that we don't think about very often. You know, when someone is going
Mhm,
into business, unless it is a legal business, right? They're
mhm.
like, okay, I'm going to do whatever my service is, or I'm going to share my product. And then eventually down the line, it's like, oh, shoot, maybe I'm supposed to protect myself.
Right.
So, right. So, what are some of the things that you see amongst your clients? Maybe some common misconceptions or even mistakes that you see business owners making in, especially these first couple of years when it comes to legally protecting their business?
Whew, Hunter, so many. But before I even jump into one, I want to just say that this is expected. Like you said, we're experts at one thing. Like we have a lane. I went to school for this, so when people come to me and they're like embarrassed that maybe they don't have a contract or they didn't do something right, like I like to remind them, like, it's not your fault. You're not supposed to know this, right? Like, you're not supposed to have this on lock early on. You're not supposed to not make mistakes. Like, it happens. So give yourself some grace, number one. Number two, as a business owner, you do have the responsibility of protecting your business, right? So if you don't know what that means for your product or your service or your industry or the type of business that you're running, then you do need to go find out, right? As business owners, like in order to delegate or even talk to experts, like we do have to take that initiative. So I'll say that portion there, right? As far as mistakes go, I think just at the outset, or misconception, I'll say, is that if I don't have a big business, if I haven't been in business for 5 years or I haven't made $1 million in my business, I don't need to talk to an attorney yet. My business is just small, but however you may feel about your business, however long you've been in your business, you still need to be protected from the ground up. Getting an LLC, corporation, some type of legal entity at the outset is a critical step because it separates your personal assets from being on the line from your business assets, right? Like you don't want your stocks, maybe your 9 to 5 salary, like you don't want those things on the line if you were to ever get into any trouble. And if you're thinking like, again, my business isn't big enough, it could happen to your first client. Your first client, your second, your third, one of those when you're just getting started could really be a bad situation, right? That is very possible. So I actually had an experience where I was working with a duo and it was their second client that, really scared them, where there was a dispute about, we did this work for you. And then the client came back and said, could you do it again? We didn't really like it. So they did it again. And when they sent the bill, the client was like, we're not paying for all of this. We agreed to pay for one. And my client was like, well, we did twice the work, right? So that little discrepancy there led their client to say, talk to our attorney, right? And that can be super scary as a business owner who's just starting out. You're being referred to the legal department and you got the like legal department, right? Not just one attorney, like legal department. That's multiple attorneys. They got a whole team to handle this stuff, right? It could be really scary. And then also from if it was to jump into like a lawsuit or something like that, from a monetary standpoint, like that could take your business out quickly, right? So if you don't have that legal structure in place to protect your assets, to separate your assets, if not really legal, but you also want to have business insurance in place so you can cover certain costs, right? So I would say that's a misconception there. It's like my business isn't big enough. The fact that you don't need contracts, that's another misconception. I'd like to tell people that every business relationship needs a contract. You sent me a release, before we hopped on this podcast to let me know this is what we're going to do. This is how I'm going to use the content. And I agreed to that, right? Because you want to make sure as a business owner, as a host, the controller of this platform, that you have the dynamics in place the way that you need it to, and to protect yourself and to avoid me coming to you saying, hey, I didn't say you can make a reel out of this and post it on Instagram when in actuality, I signed off on that. Right. So I would say those are two of the biggest misconceptions is not needing like an LLC or some type of structure in place. And then second, just kind of not needing or thinking that you don't need a contract for the same reasons, because you're not a big business yet.
Right. Well, I feel like when I think back to when I was starting my business, I knew the contracts
Hmm.
piece because I had been a contract worker for the company that I was with prior. So I wasn't W-2'd for a long time. And I was like, okay, wait a second. Like you got to make sure that you're dotting your I's, crossing your T's here, because these people will sometimes really take advantage of you.
Hmm.
And I feel like something else that's interesting and important to know, and I really love that you brought up, like, if you feel like you have made a mistake in this process, this is normal and
Hmm.
okay. And all you have to do is improve for the next step. Like the number of times that I have gone in and refined my contracts because of a client experience that I had, and I was like, well, shit, I got to put that in the contract. So this doesn't,
Same,
right?
same. I do it all the time. As an attorney, I'm like, they thought it was okay to do this. Let me go back into my contract so that next time, or so I can avoid this happening in the future. Yeah, like you learn, right? You learn, you grow, you take action, you prevent things from happening. So I'm so glad that you said that because even me as an attorney, I tinker with my contracts for my clients all the time.
Right. Like our businesses are constantly evolving and changing. You
Yeah.
are learning as you go. It is okay to make mistakes as long as clause here, you learn from them.
Yes, yes.
As long as you learn from them. I'm really curious, and I'm so glad that you brought up an example because I think this is something that we forget a lot, right? That
Hmm.
it could be your first, second, or even third client that something scary or intimidating happens. When
Hmm.
that occurs and a business owner comes to you and is obviously I know I would be really distraught in that situation. How do you help them through it? Like how do you walk them through it? Because I think it's really easy to shut down in a
Hmm.
moment
Oh
like that,
yeah.
so
Oh
how do
yeah.
you help your clients navigate through the sometimes scary waters of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, and this is actually something that I do for my clients is help them resolve disputes. But first, like you say, it's easy to shut down, become distraught. Again, it could be your first, your second client. And you're entitled to feel that way, right? Like you're entitled to feel like, oh, like what's gonna happen here? Like, oh, I'm scared, I'm frightened. The clients that I gave an example about, like, they stopped taking new clients until, this matter was handled because they were like, never again, right? Client number two, never again. But the way that I help is by letting them have their emotions. Have your emotions, feel your emotions, I'm here to be the non-emotional person and let you know, like, okay, if this is the way that you want to move forward, here are our options, right? Yes, you can be petty and you can send a strong email if you want to, but this is what's going to happen, right? Like they might be petty back or they may not be willing to negotiate. And if we come to the table ready to negotiate, or, if you're willing to take a loss on this part here, then that'll actually get you out of this situation faster versus prolonging it, which will have you continue feeling this way. And it will continue hanging over your head. You won't be able to bring in new clients, or you'll be paranoid about it, right? So I help them by letting them have their emotions and then guiding them like emotionless, right? Like a clear path and like, this is what we can do. So I think that's important because again, like we're human at the end of the day, right? Like we can be angry, want to be petty, we could be embarrassed, right? And all of those emotions can lead to actions that have even bigger consequences. And that's not something we want. We want to shut down the problems as soon as we can, as amicably as we can. And even though you got the right to be petty, we're not being petty, being professional.
Yes, I think it's really, really good to remember this as business owners. Like, just like we're human,
Yeah.
right? Like, we are going to have feelings. And especially when, like, you're in such a triggering situation, like,
Yeah.
if you didn't have feelings, I would be concerned for you. You know,
Mhm,
like, you're going to be
mhm.
worked up. And I love that you're able to be the level-minded person, right? Because you don't have the same skin in the game, and
Right.
you understand, because I think that's the other thing too, like you understand how this process works. For someone who doesn't understand, you're going to have even more heightened emotions because
Right.
it's kind of this big unknown. And so I love that you're able to walk them through that, not telling them not to feel the feelings, like feel all the feelings, but let's
Mhm,
feel them in my office and not
mhm.
not
Right.
not with the client we're trying to negotiate with.
Exactly, exactly, and I love that you said, like, I think you said something like lead through or like walk through. I think as service providers, as business owners, right? Whether you're lawyers, somebody else, like that is our responsibility is to help our clients through whatever they need help with, right? And so even if it's not like some type of dispute, it could be like a small miscommunication. Like clients come to business owners because they're looking for leadership. They not only just want that service or maybe sometimes to buy that product, but specifically with service providers, like they are looking to be led, right? It's the execution of the project or the service, but it's also the customer service or the client experience element of it where it's like, okay, this person can handle this. Maybe you had a client who, again, was being petty or aggressive or not cooperative. Like, we have to be able to be the business owners, take our emotions out of it and lead them from point A to point B. Think of creative solutions, be flexible so that, everybody can have a good client experience.
Exactly. And I love this emphasis on the leadership because I think it's something that we forget as well, especially when like our expertise is like, for example, for mine, it's design, right? Like
Hmm.
you're not just designing for someone.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
you are taking them through the entire process. You're helping pull out information from them that they may not
Hmm.
have known that they had in them. You're helping them get to what that vision that they have for themselves. And
Right.
that is, like you said, leadership. And so,
Hmm.
Liku, I absolutely love it. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, tell us more, tell us more. Something else that I want to talk about a little bit is intellectual property.
Mm.
For anyone, because I know you specialize in this as well, for anyone listening who doesn't know what intellectual property is, can you let people know what it is and why it is so important to protect it? Because we talked about contracts and kind of protecting yourself in the business, but I think we forget about the intellectual property piece and that is something that also is worth protecting.
Yes, and it's worth protecting because your intellectual property, which I'm going to call IP, are the assets in your business, right? And so we commonly know these as trademarks, right? Those words, sounds, logos, phrases, sometimes smell, that are signature to a brand. Like if I tell you Nike, you know exactly what their slanted font looks like with their swoosh logo, like those are trademarks. If Fenty is one of my favorite brands. My husband just bought me some products last night. Like, Fenty is their brand that they've trademarked in the marketplace so that, in the makeup and the beauty and the skincare industry, like they stand out as unique, right? So your trademark, I'll give you another example. My son was watching the Mario Brothers movie the other day, and I think Mario was like, somebody made fun of their overall. And Mario was like, oh, it's our trademark, right? In that, like, that's how people recognize them. Oh, the plumbers that, are brothers with the overalls, right? Like, that's how you stand out in the marketplace, and you want to protect that so that there's not 7 pairs of brothers with overalls providing plumbing services because then that dilutes your brand, right? So you want to protect what's yours. Copyrights protect like your actual content, those things that you create and bring to fruition in a tangible form. So photographs are a classic example where a photographer will take a picture and those photos they produce are now um, tangible medium where it was in a tangible medium where you can actually like consume the photo, right? Like they created that intellectual property. This recording is something, it's content that you're creating that people are going to be able to consume. So those are protected by copyright. And to differentiate that from trademarks, like for example, the name of your podcast, right? You can trademark that because that's how people recognize it. And then again, the content is something that you copyright. And then patents are, I'm not even going to act like there's a hierarchy here. I'm just kind of, trying to be visual. But patents essentially cover inventions. So for most online business owners, like you don't see patents in the mix. But those are a very like specialized area of intellectual property, something I myself don't specialize in, but we do need to know as business owners, like what assets do I have in my business? What can I protect via trademark? Is it right for me to do so? What should I protect via copyright? And this is important because as we grow our brands and we get out there into the marketplace, number one, we don't want our brands to be diluted, right? We don't want our content to be diluted. If you have a, let's say, signature framework or a way of doing things, right? Like you want to make sure like that copyrighted information is protected and nobody can just copy you and claim it as their own, or more importantly, make money off of it, right? If you have a specific way, let's say that you curate podcast episodes or you bring people through the funnel, like I love the way that you do yours, Hunter. I'm like, this graphic and the pamphlet is all nice and everything, like that's something that you can very well like copyright and teach to other podcast hosts, or sell in some type of way. Like they become assets because you can later leverage them and make money from them, but they can only be leveraged if you take in the measures to protect them and make them yours, right? If a business conference wanted to be called the Just Do It conference, Nike would have a fit because that's their slogan, right? But that business conference could go to Nike and say, hey, we want to license you. So can we have your permission to use Just Do It for this 2-day conference? We'll pay you what's probably a big sum of money, right? Because they know that Just Do It, like the audience is going to see, like, Just Do It. That's Nike. This conference is probably affiliated with them, like, oh, I'm going to pay money to go, right? Like that's the leverage. Like that's what you get when you protect your stuff.
I love this example, especially here at the end that you shared of how you can leverage these, right? Because I think it's still a very foreign concept. Like, okay, yeah, okay, protect
Hmm.
myself, but but why? But adding in that, well,
Right.
you can leverage this down the line. People can license these. Maybe you've got a method or a signature method that you
Hmm.
use that can be licensed out for other service providers, business owners, conferences, even, right? To use. As you were talking, you had mentioned, trying to figure out what was like the right thing to trademark and copyright. And are there certain things that you recommend your clients think about of like, hey, like maybe a checklist of this is what you need to think about. If you mark X number of things, you should
Hmm.
probably you should probably
Yeah.
legally protect this IP. Do you have something like that? Or even just top three, this is what you need to be thinking
Yeah.
about?
It really depends because every brand is so different, their industry, what they do. But at like high level, I would say number one, before you launch a brand or in the beginning, like really before you launch a brand, you want to check what else is out there in the marketplace, right? Because it may not be a big thing right now, but maybe, later down the line, you do want to make it a big thing. So you want to understand like who else is out there, right? Like if I run let's say the cupcake conference for bakers or something like that, and I'm calling it Bake a Business or something catchy like that. I want to Google and see who else has Bake a Business or business in a bakery or something similar that might conflict or be confusing to my own unique slogan or business name, conference name, because that might create issues down the line. Let's say I do create this conference and millions of dollars, and year two, someone comes and they're like, hey, actually, I've been using this for the past 5 years. Like, you need to stop using it, cease and desist, right? Like, that'll cause you problems because now you have an industry that's familiar with your brand, right? Maybe you might have to rebrand, which takes you a little bit out of the marketplace. Like, you don't have that familiarity anymore. You got to work to get back the trust. Like, there's just so many components. So I think number one for sure is just see what else is out there and always keep your post on what's out there as well. Social media, blogs, Google, like, all of that. Like, you just always want to be doing some type of search. And then number two, talk to an attorney. And I say talk to an attorney because again, like it can vary so much for people. Like I gave the example about Fenty earlier. She could file a trademark like that if she wanted to, right? She could be like, oh, I want to do this in the future. Call her attorney, hey, file a trademark for this. And then in 2 weeks, she could change her mind. That's no money lost to her. That's no like, because she has the resources, right? So it's also strategic from a resource standpoint, which is why I say talk to an attorney about, the development of your brand, what you have planned in the future, your timeline, like your resources, how you can be strategic. Like everyone should have their own separate strategic plan as to how to go about things. And I say talk to an attorney and work with an attorney because there are trademark companies out there where you don't have to work with an attorney or it's kind of just like let's help you get your step through, but then things arise later that they don't help you with. So just having that relationship with an attorney really goes a long way, and you can talk about not just your trademarks and intellectual property but other areas of your business so that everything is actually in unison and you're not trying to you know deal with one type of legal issue on one front and then everything else on a separate front. And then I would say number three is really people don't know this, but you have to be mindful of the time for trademarks in particular. I think the minimum right now is probably like 12 to 18 months. Like it is a process, right? It's a process. So that's just another consideration, something to talk to an attorney about because you could start a brand and it blow up like that in 6 months, right? Or later in 5 years. Like you kind of just want to figure out like where the timing of that lies, and that's also because it is a longer application process. And as you know, we talked about business develops every day, business changes every day. So an idea that you're working on now may not actually, come to fruition, or you might change about it, or it can look completely different after the year and a half or 2 years that you've spent trademarking something. So definitely see what's out there already. Make sure you're not stepping in anybody's waters or potentially doing that. And then also just talk to an attorney so you can understand the nuances of protecting your brand and making sure you're doing it in a way where you're not just avoiding trouble, but like you said, also protecting it for what? That for what is so it can be leveraged later because it's an asset.
You've mentioned, and rightfully so, talk to an attorney. And something that I wanna ask, 'cause I people ask me too, like, "Well, how do I find the right designer?" And what I wanna know is how does someone find the right attorney? Because
Mhm.
there are questions for a designer, right, that you wanna make sure that you're asking to make sure you've got the right fit, and I imagine it's very, very similar for attorneys. So how would you recommend someone go about finding the right attorney that fits them?
I always find that referrals are great. Like as a business owner myself, when I'm looking for a certain professional to work with, I try to tap into my network because those are people that I trust already. And if they tell me they've had a good experience or this person made them, feel okay, then that's something that I would take to heart versus just like kind of looking on Google or, searching that way. I think referrals are great. Number two is what I believe about, and this is outside of course, you can read reviews, you can look on people's websites, you can look at their content, like definitely do that investigative dive when you're thinking about working with people, listen to podcast episodes, all of that. But what I believe about lawyers, Hunter, is like we're supposed to make you feel good. And Anasa, when I was starting my law firm, Anasa in Swahili, which is my language, I learned from my mother, means like luxury. I was trying to ask my mom, like, how can I say like luxury in, Swahili? Because what I wanted to do as a lawyer was make people feel like they can kick their feet up, like they can exhale, like they can drop their shoulders. Because even though these matters, like legal is not fun from what we know about it, right? What we see on TV, people being dragged in and out of court, child support cases, divorces, like it's never really glamorous. Even when you're watching something entertainment like Suits, like that's my show, but it's like it makes you feel tense, right? Like when you're dealing with that as a business owner, it's like, ugh, you put it on the back burner. So I think that people should look to have conversations, initial conversations with lawyers and see how do they make me feel? Do they make me feel, rushed? That, I'm on their time? Do they make me feel stupid like for asking these questions because I got a lot of questions and I don't know anything, right? Do they make me feel at ease? Do they make me feel relaxed? Do they make me feel like I'm being taken care of? So while we can definitely do our research, scour the internet, look at reviews, testimonials, referrals, I think that component is very important too, because that is an essential person to helping you not just protect your business, but build it.
And I think this is something that is so applicable to any service provider. Like
Yeah.
how is this person making you feel? You don't have to work with someone who makes you feel like trash. Okay, everybody?
Yes. Yes. Hmm.
Find someone who makes you feel good in the process because that is just as important as the service they're providing. Just like Liku was talking about, the customer experience, right? That client experience is just as important as the final deliverables that you receive. Liku, seriously, I have loved this conversation so much.
Yay.
We are wrapping up, so I want to ask you my favorite
Yeah.
question to ask everybody, which
Sure.
is if you could change one thing in the entrepreneurial space, what would you like to see done differently?
I knew this question was coming, Hunter, and I had something, but it has completely left the neighborhood. I would like to see more strategy be accessible, right? One of the reasons why I wanted to become an attorney is because Black people historically don't have access to, like, there's not an attorney right next door or in your church or, someone that you can just go to. There's a small, very small percentage of us. So I wanted people to have access so that they can feel more comfortable with someone to be able to ask questions and see if they're doing things correctly, but also to have that leverage, right? When it comes to particular areas of business like the law, like taxes, IRS, right? Like these things that we're afraid of or don't want to deal with, but we're like, oh, I know I'm supposed to do it. Like there's actually a lot of leverage in having your ducks in a row and really like finding a way to operate your business with structure, with sound foundation. And I want for people to know that. I want for all business owners to know that when you have strategy, like you have more leverage. Like business doesn't, we were talking earlier, business doesn't have to be you working from 9 to 5 if that doesn't work for you. Like you have more leverage when you figure out a strategy that works best for you. If you're more creative in the mornings or in the evenings, or me myself, I get burnt out by like 1, 2 o'clock because I'm an early bird, right? Like I take all my calls in the morning, and then I also have kids. So in the afternoon, and then coming back from school and daycare, like, there's a lot of this strategy and leverage in one, building your business the way that you need it to run versus according to other expectations, social media, coaches. I don't care how much you pay somebody, you need to do it your own way. And then also, too, finding the balance to trust those advisors and the experts and therapists, of course, because mental health is very important. But there's just, when you figure out your strategies, like it can really take your business to the next level. So I really wish that there was a change to help people recognize that more. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, Hunter, outside of, people like not gatekeeping, or, maybe even speaking about business differently. Because again, we also speak about business in, a certain way. We have these scripts or these stories or these common misconceptions. But I do see that coming with just the way social media has provided a lot of access to people. Not all information is accurate. I'll give that disclaimer there, but it is a good way to kind of see like what else is out there. What can I do? Like, do I have to do it this way? I don't think that I do, right? I can do it in a different way, in a bigger way. So that's what I would say is just I wish business would do better with giving people access and knowledge regarding strategy and the benefits around it.
I think that is so good and so powerful. As you were talking about like why you got into this, I was getting goosebumps. I was like, "Oh my God. Yes. Yes." I think that it's so important. And you're right. Like a lot of it is gate kept. And
Mhm.
we're not going to improve the way that we all could if we continue to gatekeep that way. So I love that you brought that up, and I'm excited for these shifts to start to happen because I agree with you. I'm seeing it a little bit, you know. So
Yeah.
hopefully the floodgates open a little bit more and some more change comes through. I want to make sure that people can get in contact with you. So please tell us how can people find you, Liku?
Yes, LinkedIn is my jam. If you search up Liku Amadi, I am the only person who's going to pop up. So please feel free to send me a request, hop in my DMs. I'm happy to talk about business owners, to talk to business owners, whether you have a legal question or if I can be a resource to you some way. We're a community in business, right? Like I want to be a resource. And then otherwise, anasalawfirm.com, ANASA lawfirm.com is where you can find my firm website.
Awesome. And make sure to check the comments, everyone, because I will put, or the show notes, I will put all that information there. So you don't have to remember anything. I've got you. Liku, seriously, again, this was such a wonderful conversation. I so appreciate you taking the time to come and chat about this. I think it is so important, and you are absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much, Hunter. This was good. I think we could have got into a few more things, but we probably would be here for like hours. But I appreciate you curating this space and, us having this discussion, not just about what's legally important, but just about business in general, because it's a learning process every single day. So thank you for having me.